In this video, we are going to talk about why this thing ain't got no electricity in the back. Nobody behind me knows what I'm doing, so we're going to fix that, and then we're going to take a better walk around, and we're going to look, underneath the bonnet, and et cetera, and explore this thing a little bit, what I just bought. So stick around. So I just picked up this unit of a GMC, and this is a unit, this thing. I drove almost 12 hours round trip to get it. Bought it from an old feller. His dad bought it brand new in it's a 68, so what year do you suppose he bought it in? Same year I was born, 1968. And the guy, the old feller died in the 80s, and the guy that I got it from, the keys just changed pockets, went from his dad's pocket to his. He said he had it painted when the old boy kicked the bucket. So 83, 84, whatever, had it splashed up. Wasn't anything really wrong with it, he just wanted to spruce it up. Had it splashed up, he did some work on the interior at the same time, had it covered, and you can tell it was done in the 80s. I kind of dig it. It's got cab lights, I don't like that, but whatever. But one of the things that kind of reared its ugly head on it, and it kind of did it when I was looking at the truck, is that it ain't got no damn tail lights. Holy jumping jeebus, it's got no stinking tail light. And that's pretty common on these trucks. And these old situations like this here, don't freak out over stuff like that. From this lens here to the lens in the front grille and everything in between, there's about 17 wires runs these trucks. Lights, motors, horns, dash, there ain't nothing to them. So if you got an issue like this, Christ, go get 3 extension cords and cut the ends off and you could rewire the whole truck. So, how bad can it be? And I was thinking about it when I was going to get this truck. I have owned, in my life, 67 to 72 Chev trucks. I thought this was number 19, but actually I think it's more like number 21 or 22 that have passed through my hands. So I've been around them a couple of times. Had a lot of other stuff in between, but I always seem to come back to these ones. I've had square bodies. I've had a few OBS trucks, 88, 98s, Novas, Chevelles, 57 Chev there for a while. Little Mercedes Roadster. I've tried all kinds of other shit. Because really, I don't fit in these trucks real well. They kind of give me a sore back driving them for too long, but you like what you like, and I just keep coming back to them. So here I come back to it. So anyways, I have already been under the dash and under the truck because this thing had a camper in the back of it for a while. So there's some wiring involved in their camper because they must have had some lights and shit on it. So anytime, you can almost honestly say that anytime somebody else has worked on something, they shouldn't have. In my experience, it has been 8 times out of 10. 2 times out of 10, do I get something that somebody else has worked on that you go, yeah, all right. The other 8 times, you look at it and go, who sold you tools? You shouldn't have tools. You shouldn't be working on stuff. And this is the case. Well, it may probably worked when they did it, but holy shit, they done the wiring goddamn 40 years ago. So I will guarantee that it's going to be a ground issue. Guarantee it. So I've already been underneath, and I've cut some wires out of it that I didn't like. Didn't make no difference. Went up underneath the dash, checked some of this and that, checked the plugs. Didn't make no difference. So while I was underneath, I cleaned off a section of the little chunk of the frame there down to steel, and I'll demonstrate. The lights are on right now. Do you know how you can tell the lights are on? Because they're not. So like I said, this here, it's just alligator clipped down to the frame to a clean spot on the frame. A la peanut butter sandwiches. See that as soon as you ground that? The lights are on. Something else. Here's another indicator of stupid shit. Whee! So that is the left signal light. You know how you can tell it's a left signal light? I don't know if you can see it or not, but the right one's flashing as well. They're both very dim and very flashy. Holy jumpins. So that shows that it's the ground. So there. Problem you get into with these old trucks, any of these old vehicles, trucks especially though, the light's ground through the housing. Bulb screws into the housing. All you get in the housing and the wires is the positive wires. One for the brake and signal, and then one for the park. Brake and signal run the same, and then the one for the park. Only 2 wires, 2 powers coming in. No grounds. They ground through the housing and through the screws. To attach that housing, there's 2 5/16 screws. They go through the housing into the truck box. But they don't go right into the truck box. There's clips that they screw into. And the holes in the truck box are big enough so the screw will pass straight through the hole. So, you get a ground as long as the screw going through the hole, as long as that screw makes contact with the housing, which it always will, but it's going into the clip. So now, as long as that clip with a P is making good contact and cutting through the paint of the box, well, that's where you get your ground from. See, it's kind of destined for failure. And that ground has to go to the frame. I don't believe I've ever taken a box off of one of these trucks that had a ground strap going from the box to the frame. Newer trucks do, these older ones do not. So they just rely on the box bolts. This truck in particular has a wood bed. There's very little steel involved. So you're just holding, I mean, when they're new and for the first bunch of years, everything's fine. Everything's jumping, everything's working. But as they get older, and this one's older, you get a bunch of rust, you get a bunch of shit in there, and I mean, your ground was destined to failure to start with. So as soon as you start adding some rust and some fuzz and whatever else on there, you get failure. And that's what's happening here, is we're just not getting grounds anymore. And I have had it to the point of, like I have taken before, pulled this housing out, and there's a space between it and the taillight lens. I have run a ground wire into this housing, either with a screw or, you know, what have you, whatever you want to do. You can solder a tab onto the back of it to plug a connector onto. But anyways, I have had to run a ground wire from this housing itself down to a clean spot, cleaned off, onto the frame, and ground each light socket individually. I've done that more than once. I mean, if you do it that way, then they're always going to work. But I'm going to try here to, well, I'm not sure what I'm going to try. I'm going to try to do it through the housing first and see how long that lasts, if that works. But I mean, if it doesn't, then yeah, then you gotta do shit, right? It's kind of a pain in the ass, really. I kind of wish it would have had a different system, whereas there's a ground wire involved, but they didn't and there isn't, so you just got to get to getting. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to get to getting. Sometimes shit's got to happen. So that's where our failure comes into play. See that guy? There's 2 of those clips, and screw comes out of the back of the housing and just goes into that little clip in there. Lighting's not real good, but I think you can see that the chances of having a good ground there, they're minimal. A little boot come off, but you see, like I'm saying, there's only 2 wires go into that bulb. One's your park, one's your signal / brake. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get in there with, you could do it with some sandpaper or whatever. I'm going to get in there with a little die grinder, and I'm going to make some bare steel both on the clip and on the box. And I'm going to do it on both sides, and then we're going to put that back together. Hopefully it works. That will be the fix for the funky GM taillights. So I took that clip out, I ground a little bit around the clip, I ground on the clip. I ground the back side of the housing, you can't see that too much. And I roughed her up a little bit in there. I gave her the business a little bit. Oh, did you hear that? So, alakazam, we're gonna put her back together. Hopefully it works. It's kind of stupid too, I don't really get why, but they kind of put a rubber insulator on the inside of that screw. What do you do that for? That's where you're supposed to be getting your ground from, stupid. So I'm going to take my handy dandy little pocket screwdriver. I'm going to scrape some of that shit out of there, because I don't like that. Cut it out. We're working again. Are you with me or against me? You know what I'm saying? Now bear in mind, all this is doing is grounding it to the box. If we still don't have a good ground from the box to the frame, well then this ain't going to work. Did it work? See, it still didn't work. So what that's saying is that the box is not grounded to the frame. Doink. So you can see, my wire hanging down. So I went underneath and I put a little ground on the frame, and then I've got my wire clamped to it with a little baby pair of vice grips. So I'm going to go pull the button. Tell me if they work. I'll bet you they're going to work. They should work. I hope they work. If they don't work, they got to work. Are they working? See, you can't tell walking up because the side light's in a 68. They're working. Hey, there is no light in the 68. It's only a marker. So it's interesting, hey, that I only did the one side, but I don't know if you can see. Can you see this kind of almost trying to flash on this side? Because it's not making a good ground on that side either. So the one side cleans it up like 90%. But I'm going to go in, I'm going to do the other side too. Yeah, can see. But listen, they didn't work. They didn't work, so now they do. What if the backup lights work? The backup lights work? Holy shit, the backup lights work. Holy shit, the backup lights work. I like this truck. This thing's a peach. Yeah. Dingity gosh darn dang it. I haven't even driven this truck yet because it's got no tail lights. But give me just give me another 10 minutes here and we're going to have some GD tail lights here. Tell you what. See, like I said, it's easy. There's only, I mean, if you can't outsmart one of these trucks, well, Jesus. Speaking of outsmart one of these trucks, put that taillight lens on there, would you? Sketty doot bop boop biddly bow. sometimes if you want to make sure that this is going to work for you, so the way the clips are designed, they call that a J clip. They call it a J clip. It's not really a J. So just take you some pliers and just pinch it off a little. Don't get too carried away though, because you won't be able to get it back on there. But usually if you just give her a bit of a pinch, it'll tighten that up a little bit. Because you want to make sure that you're making a good contact, right? So we pinched her up a little bit there. We'll reinstall it. We'll uninstall it just a bit, just to make sure that we're still on the freshly ground metal. Hey, you know what I'm saying? So we'll give her a little bit of that. Oh, there it is. And everybody goes back home. See what I mean about all the shit on there? What would you do that for? Let's put some rubber insulating kind of stuff on there just to make sure that at some point we're going to have a problem with the ground, would you? Get off of there. Get off of there now. There now. Oh. The show on Canadian TV used to be anyways called Red Green. That's what he did all the time when stuff was going south. Oh. There was always a bill. Oh, Bill. Oh. Squeaker. Now watch, they won't work. Wouldn't that be rich and creamy? Is it still working? If it ain't working, I'll snap. Yeah, boy. Oh, yeah, boy. It's one of them. There's one of them. There's a pair of them. And there's a pair of them. Hey, are we all working? I hope so. It'd be embarrassing if they weren't, hey? Look at that. I still can't believe the backup lights work. As you can see on the floor, there's a little bit of a mess going on down there, underneath there. What I've done down there is I got a string of wire. I don't know what gauge it was, probably 10 gauge maybe. Fairly heavy. And I made a ground wire and I ground off a piece of the frame where there was already a hole. One of these guys. Got her to the bare steels. Used a 1/4 inch nut and a bolt and a couple of washers on that end of it, with an eyelet crimped on. And then again with the grinder on the box, on the cross brace right back there. Ground her to get good and clean. I used a self-tapper. Actually, I'm positive that it's a GM self-tapper from, under the hood or whatever on one of these old hunks of shit. Zing that in there, and how do they do that? There it is. The lights are fixed. I'm quite happy. I haven't driven this truck yet. I drove it up onto a trailer, then I backed it off a trailer and drove it up my driveway because it's got no lights. Well, now it's got lights. I'll show you something else that's kind of a keener, though, that we're going to have to attend to here. That'll be the next thing that I do. Might even get to it today here. I don't know. So, it's pretty spiffy. Now, I knew when I bought this thing that the gas gauge didn't work, right? Hey, where are you? There it is. So we turn the key on. Mr. Gas Gauge does not work, right? But now you want to see something cool. Pull the lights on. Can you see that gas gauge going down? It's slow. It goes down quicker if I shut the key off. If I take the power away from it, look at that gas gauge go down when you pull the lights on. See that? That's a thing. So, but once again, it's just going to be a wire. Somebody did something stupid under the dash. I guarantee it. The reason I can say that for certainty, when I looked at this truck, when the lights didn't work, holy hell, I checked fuses. And when I checked fuses, I seen some wiring. And I seen some wire. And I seen some wiring. And actually there was a couple of ground wires just hanging. So a lot of that wiring has to do with, like I said, this thing's got fuel injection on it. And he tells me that he had a stereo put in it. So then, he didn't tell me this though, so while I'm looking at it, well, it's got one of those under here, and then on that side over there, there's an amp down there to go with them speakers and them speakers and them speakers. So, like I say, I know that that's going to mean, oh, he had a dog too, I never noticed that. Look at the dog hair in there. I still dig that interior. That is the tits. But anyways, as I'm saying, between the stereo, the fuel injection, and that other stuff, that's going to be what's wrong with that gas gauge. Because somebody done something what they should not have been doing. So, yeah, that's going to be next here, is I'm going to find out what the hell's wrong with that gas gauge. Because I wouldn't mind knowing how much gas is in this turkey. So let's take a look at what I done here. In all its glory. I like this truck. So I did the tail lights. That was a couple of days ago now. The gas gauge wasn't working, but it seems to be now, so maybe the truck just likes me. First thing I see when I walk up, that's not good. And you always know when you see that, somebody's done something. Oh, I set the door up because you had to slam it before. But I'm gonna have to readjust it once I deal with. So once we get inside here and have a look at that, see how our hinges fitted? Not well. See that? That's green paint. So for some reason, somebody's put a hinge in this thing and they didn't do it well, and that's why the door fits the way it does. I thought maybe I would just loosen it off and slide it back, but see that? That's the fender. So yeah, on these trucks, those hinge bolts are in behind the fender, so you ain't getting to them. So big part, so they've got a shim up there and then nothing anywhere else. So I'll take that shim out, and then for the time being, I'll just shim the door back from the hinge, and then that'll push the door back where it needs to go so that it fits better. But anyways, let me get my keister in here. So this is it. This is what I bought. Now, one thing that I'm not grooving on is, honestly, the fuel injection. I kind of have a problem with the fuel injection. To me, the truck should have a quadrajet on it. That's what it came with. I have a quadrajet. I may very well put a quadrajet back on it. But now, if you listen, I'm not sure if it'll pick it up, but when you turn the key on, do you hear that stereo static? That's not stereo static. There's got to be a return line plumbed into the tank. And I know that I have read, maybe online something, I don't know where I read it. Oh no, I had a truck once that had Edelbrock fuel injection on it. I sold it, the truck. But anyways, it had the manual, and in the manual it said that the return fuel line for the fuel injection in the Edelbrock unit, they wanted you to run that on these particular trucks because it was a manual, and it said, for whatever kind of fuel tank. Anyways, it said that it wanted the return line plumbed into the bottom of the fuel tank. And that kit came with some kind of a special sort of a punch something that would take, and you punched a hole, and then it mushroomed the tank inwards, and then they gave you a tap, and you threaded a tap, and it threaded the mushroomed metal that exploded like shrapnel, cut some threads in there, then you threaded in a return line into the bottom. So looking at this, and here, I'll show you. Here, have a look. Oh, gosh. So when you pull the seat ahead, yoink! Oh. So if you can look at that in focus, you see that black hose? That's the return line. Now, somehow, they have put a fitting on the tank, and, oh, the seat don't stay ahead. The fitting goes up at an angle, and the hose is on that fitting going up on an angle. So the return line sprays upwards into the tank. So when you turn the key on, and it sounds like there's speakers behind you and it's stereo static, that's fuel spraying. See? Pump cycle's off, it stops. I don't really like that. One thing you do get from this, though, is... does that get any better? And this is kind of neat because you can see everything that's happening. That is our temperature. There's TAC, all this other stuff. Air fuel, 13.5. You know, but still, I don't know. Uh-oh, I just hit something. Uh-oh. I'm going to have to get the instructions out to find out what I just tapped with my finger. I'm going to go back again now. Come on now. Huh. Well, I'm going to have to get the instructions out to find out what I done. Because see, I just can't have stuff like that. But whatever, we'll figure it out. So I reckon I'm going to get something and I'm going to take the oxidation off of the paint. Because, I mean, this is just me rubbing it with my finger. What do you think of that? I mean, I don't want the sumbitch to be shiny as hell. I'm happy with that. If I can clean the oxidation off and it's got 40-year-old paint on it. You know, a funny thing about this thing is when I bought it, this was shiny. The truck, well, it was about that shiny. And it was kind of dirty underneath. So like transmission and shit coated in transmission fluid as it should be. So while it was on the trailer, I stopped by a car wash and climbed underneath there and blasted it all off. And then I washed the whole thing. Well, by the time I got home with the thing on a trailer, it's dull. Weird, hey? I don't know what he had on it. He had something on it, though. But, yeah, here, let's have a look at stuff here. I'll show you in there. Here, let's look in there. Hoi! So satisfying. Woohoo! I haven't had one of these trucks in quite a while. I'm reasonably excited. So we'll call this all the befores. So I don't know how long that fuel injection has been on the truck time-wise. He says not even 1,000 miles. But when you zoom in and look at it, it looks like it's about 10 years old. Actually, you know what? That looks like an old Holly carburetor if you were to ask me. Good thing it says Holly on it because that's what it looks like. I would say by, where the hell can you read the brand? The plug wires are, what the hell are they? A-Team or some damn thing, the plug wires. So I'm going to assume that HEI distributor and them highfalutin plug wires are your Amazon, deal of the day. See, it's a 4-barrel intake, hey? And I have a good quadrajet that I think is probably going to go back on this thing. But yeah, so it's got a block-off plate down there, but that, because the factory fuel pump would be down there, right? Stuff's greasy enough that plate's been on there a while. But yeah, I mean, we got some, we could use some attention to some wiring. And we bought a whole pack of tie wraps, and when we put this truck together, we only had 1 or 2 tie wraps left over. Because we used them all. We tie wrapped and tie wrapped until we could tie wrap no more. And another thing, when you drive this thing, the gas pedal is just stiff as a bastard. And it's got one of these low-carb hoojimafuzzes in there. And as I'm looking at it here, so focus, you dirty. We're kind of going on a downward angle here when you straighten that cable out. And we're kind of up pretty high on this thing. So when I'm pushing on the gas, I'm trying to pull that down. Because if I tilt this up and pull on the gas, oh, nothing. Put it the way it is. And then all of a sudden you over center it, and then you're just revving. Then just revving and revving, and I don't like that. So I don't know what for the duration of this fuel injection is on here, which could be, its days are numbered. I'll tell you what. I don't know if I can build some kind of a spacer and bring that bracket up. Like, I mean, that bracket's got to come up 1.5 inches. So I don't know what I could do there. Something. So it's a 2-barrel fuel injection they put on it. And it's kind of funny that we got the old 80s GM blue paint all over this 4-barrel to 2-barrel adapter they put on the intake to put the 2-barrel fuel injection on top of a 4-barrel intake. So I don't know why they done that. But you know, one of the first places I looked when I looked at this truck is when these cowl panels on these old trucks, when they get all full of shit, well, they rust right here in these corners. And I mean, this thing has got just as nice a corners as you're going to find. The harnesses, the wires are all nice and soft, and the wiring harnesses, they're not hard and brittle. There's no morning wood in those harnesses. The inner fenders, there's no rust at these points where they bolt to the fender itself, which is really common. And underneath that battery, when I was standing in his driveway, I slipped my arm in because these trucks, the fenders always rot. That cup there underneath the battery, because batteries, they sweat a little bit and whatever, but moreover, shit gets blown up in there from under there, and then it swirls around and it gets trapped underneath the battery box, and it drops in the bottom of that fender, and then the fenders rust out. This one, I ran my hand down in there while I was talking to him, and he was looking at me like I was some kind of a retard as I was feeling around right to the bottom, and the inside of that fender is just smooth paint still. So that makes this thing a peach. And again, over here, really clean. Really clean. The only problem is the cab corner on this side that's a problem. But, I mean, yeah, we got whoever, was doing all this stuff. They weren't a wiring wizard, that's for sure. They got shit all over the place. And actually, I did that little vacuum hose with the screw in the end because it was just an open vacuum port. And it's a manifold vacuum, so. But yeah, I want to keep that because, I mean, like this is a 327. That's what this comes with. That's the original motor out of this truck. It's 68 327. And he told me the motor's been out and been rebuilt, and I believe it because of the shitty paint work and stuff that's on that motor. And it's I don't know. We have got brake fluid. So somebody's done something because we got problems. And those problems will be because see, we're kind of sweaty there too. And when I was underneath the truck, I see that it's got new bleeder screws in it. So somebody's gone through the brakes. But yeah, look at that. There's the original shining. I think this truck just needed me. Oh, we got to get rid of the old guy. He was, hey, that's how that hood should close. Squeaky, 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 squeaky. Yeah, he was a white-haired old dude that I bought this thing from. And how honest he is or isn't, whether he told me the truth about stuff or didn't, I don't know, but I dig the truck. Something else I kind of dig, but is not very practical. Well, I don't dig the exhaust leak, but you know what that is? That's where they put the O2 sensor in. Because it's got one of these deals where you just hammer a hole into the pipe by the manifold, and then they give you a fitting that holds on with a couple of hose clamps, and then it just magically seals itself. You can hear the exhaust leak. But part of what you're hearing here is the whine from the Power Glide. So for some reason, the pump in a Power Glide transmission, they whine. I've had a few Power Glides and all of them. You can hear them from a block away. Yeah, just listen to that piece. Oh, that's a bad wheel. But yeah, anyways, I thought I would just walk you around. And have another look at the truck.